today we're reading Treasure in the Attic. I'm so lazy because this has way too many words. Goodbye. I hope you liked the video. Treasure in the Arctic.
No, not Arctic. Attic. Arctic is that cold place. Attic is above the house.
I don't know if I could read this. This is a chapter book.
Oh, wow. The book is sticking up.
This is a chapter book. So
Yeah, but 1 second. Mama fix it.
Holding.
Okay, we're gonna fix it first. So we peeled it. Apparently, whoever borrowed the book before us maybe wet it somehow. So it wasn't too easy to peel it. Anyways, Treasure in the Attic. Chapter 1, The Best Teacher. How are we at last? Here we are at last, said Abby's and Zoe's mother. They stopped outside a big old house. It was at the top of a hill, looking out over Pirates Bay. It's like a house from a storybook, said Abby. Or a movie, said Zoe. And we are right on time, said Mom. We can't be late for Mrs. Patterson. But who is she? Asked Zoe. I was in her class at school, said Mom. She was the best teacher I ever had. Baby G doesn't really want to read.
Because this has way too many words.
It has lots of words, so Mom is reading.
And plus it's a chapter book.
Mrs. Patterson gave Mom a great big hug. And you must be Abby and Zoe, she said. What is it like to be twins? Most of the time it's fun, said Abby. But it's annoying if people mistake me for Zoe. Or when they mistake me for Abby, said Zoe. Do you ever get muddled yourselves? Asked Mrs. Patterson. The twins laughed. Oh no, they said. Even when we look at photos of us as babies, we can tell if it's Zoe or me, said Abby. Mrs. Patterson looked hard at the twins. Can you tell who we are? Asked Abby. I think so, said Mrs. Patterson. You're Abby and you're Zoe. Yes, laughed the girls. Mrs. Patterson never forgets a face, said Mom. Chapter 2, The Star Pupil. Mom, Abby, and Zoe followed Mrs. Patterson into the living room, where Mrs. Patterson had a cup of tea waiting. Mom and Mrs. Patterson talked about Mom's school days, while Abby and Zoe sat and listened. Did Mom get into a lot of trouble at school? Asked Zoe. Mrs. Patterson laughed. No, she said. Your mother was my star pupil.
Hey, Mommy, are we going to be early today?
But this must be boring for you. What do you think of my house? It's very old, said Abby. Does it have any secret passageway? Okay, you read.
But this is way too
No,
many.
try.
That's Pirates Bay down there, isn't it? So baby pirates live here in the old days and hid their gold underneath
Their gold
the floorboards.
underneath the floorboards. Mrs. Patterson laughed and said, I don't know about any secret passageways or pirates' gold, but we might find some treasure upstairs in the attic.
Real treasure, said Abby, like jewels and bars and
Jewels.
gold. Jewels and bars and gold, said so.
And bars of gold, said Zoe.
I'm not sure, Mrs. Patterson.
Said Mrs. Patterson. Oh, it's page 2. Oh, there you go. Chapter 3, The Attic. Mrs. Patterson gave Mom a secret smile and said to the girls, let's go up to the attic and have a look for treasure, shall we? Come on, Edith, it's not long.
The twins raced up the stairs, but Mrs. Patterson...
But when
Mrs. Patterson opened the door,
when Mrs. Patterson opened the attic door, the twins...
Mommy, I said open. The attic door, the twins were disappointed. Mommy, you read.
All they could see were old chairs and boxes. You read. Don't be lazy.
Which?
This one.
This doesn't look like treasure, Mrs. Patterson, said Abby.
Chapter 4, Finding Treasure. Oh, there's treasure here, all right, said Mrs. Patterson. I'll find some for you. She began to hunt through a pile of papers Here we are, she said. Adik read.
Look, but that's an old school photo, Mrs. Patterson said Abby.
What's
Special about it? Look at the back row, said Mrs. Patterson.
That's Zoe, said Abby. What's she doing in this old photo? No, it's not me, said Zoe. That's you, Abby. You're yawning, baby. Mom and Mrs. Patterson began to laugh. You are both wrong, said Mrs. Patterson. It's someone who looked like both of you when she was your age. I know who it is, gasped Abby. Me too, said Zoe. Come on, it's almost done.
It's Mom, they both shouted. Yes, said Mrs. Patterson. I told you there was treasure in here. You can take it home with you if you like. It could be the start of your very own treasure. The twins smiled. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson, they said together.
The end.
The
They
end.
do look so sweet together.
And plus, they do look the same.
Yes, they're twins.